When we last left off, we had successfully connected to our database using PDO. So now, over the course of the next 2 lessons, I'm going to show you 2 different ways to fetch information from our database, because of course that's what we want to do here. Today we'll be taking a look at query. So above right here within our try-catch statement, we'll add a new line and I'm going to say results equals, and now I will say my connection. We're going to call this new method on our instance. And that method is query. And this will be very similar to what you were used to with MySQL Connect and its respective query function. Within here, I just pass my SQL. In this case, select star from the users table, and let's keep it like that. Now I want to print R the results. Let's view this in the browser, reload, and now I want you to note that what we have is an object. So what we can do at this point is say for each results as row, print R row. One more time, reload the page, view the source, and now we have those 3 items from the database. Good. And that was really easy. But what if we want to be more specific? Maybe we want to say select star from the users where the ID equals 3. Well, let's keep it like that for now. I'll reload the page, and yep, that's working. It returns the row with an ID of 3. Good. But what if we want to make this dynamic? And this is something that'll be fairly common. You're not always going to know the ID. You're going to call a function and you'll pass in the ID. And that ID then needs to be bound to the query. Now, the method that I'm going to show you is a bit of an anti-pattern. It'll work, but there are better ways to do it. So I'm going to specify anti-pattern for now. And now what I'll do is I'll say where ID equals, then I'll close it out and append ID up here. An ID will represent likely something that was retrieved from a form or a database in a previous query. So for now, let's simulate that by saying ID equals 3. And I'll specify this is just temporary. Likely it would be dynamic. All right, now let's try it. Reload the page, and yeah, we're getting the exact same thing. That's good, but this is where we have to begin worrying about SQL injection. And I'm going to have a whole lesson dedicated to SQL injection. But for now, please understand that anytime you are creating these queries and you're appending information or variables where the values were potentially set by the user of your website or application, that can be incredibly dangerous. Now, we assume that the value will be 3, but what if it was something like or 1? That way, the user could potentially access lots of records that they don't have access to. Now, don't let this confuse you. A whole lesson will be dedicated to SQL injection, but for now, we need to be careful that we always assume that the user is out to take advantage of us until proven innocent. So we want to make sure that we protect against any potential case. So the first thing that we would want to do in that protection is to run this through connection quote. There we go. Let's run it one more time, and we're getting the exact same thing. Now what this method is going to do is it's going to take the string you pass it, and it's going to, 1, wrap it within quotes, and it's also going to escape any special characters. And now presumably what this will do is make it okay to be appended to your SQL query. If I switch over to the documentation, php.net/pdo.quote, and you can see it places quotes around the input string and escapes special characters within the input string. And the basic idea is that when you're escaping these characters, you can protect against anything that the user might try to do that's harmful to your database and your data in general. Now that said, even though this will work, I'm calling this an anti-pattern because there are better ways to take care of this. And the better ways are to use prepared statements. And that's where your query and the information that the user provides that will be embedded into the query, they're never actually connected the way they are in this case. You prepare the query, and then later on, you bind these parameters or the user-supplied data to the query, and that makes it much more secure. Now, nothing is fail-safe. All databases can truthfully be hacked into if the hacker is smart and clever enough, but that will take you a really long way in terms of protecting your database. So in the next lesson, we're going to dig into prepared statements.